Metal Bringer is basically a roguelike action game from the same people who made Samurai Bringer. If you are into customizing mechs and smashing through hordes of enemies, this might be exactly your jam. The game takes place in a future where humanity has retreated underground. You play as Labor, which are these android soldiers that can either fight on foot or pilot massive mechs called arms. There's a story about a girl that wakes up from 1000 years of cryosleep and sends these Labors out to find what's left of humanity. But honestly, the story takes a backseat to the action, because what makes Metal Bringer stand out is its customization system. You can build your Labor with different heads, bodies and weapons. The mechs follow the same principle. You collect parts like legs, heads and weapons from defeated enemies and mix and match them to create your ideal setup. The combat is of course where things get really interesting. On foot you can pull off some decent attacks with your weapons, but you are pretty vulnerable. Jump into a mech though and you become a walking tank. Even the most basic construction mech is way better than being on foot when facing other mechs. You can dash around, unleash special attacks, and some mechs even have multiple weapon systems that you can swap between. There's a cool dynamic if your mech gets destroyed. You can hop out and try to take down enemy pilots, or find another abandoned mech to hijack. You can swap mechs mid-battle if you find something better. The progression system is a bit complex but makes sense once you get into it. When you are out in the field, you collect these data disks from defeated enemies that give you various abilities. You also collect a currency called D-chips, and when you die you get to keep these resources and spend them back at your base. You can spend D-chips to analyze data disks, which lets you install them as permanent upgrades for future runs. You can also analyze mech parts to unlock blueprints. The game has multiple zones with mini-bosses guarding doors to bigger bosses. These bosses are massive enemies with unique attack patterns. Taking them down requires good timing and a decent mech. The game has a cool pixelated look but still feels modern. There's an optional CRT filter if you want that old school feel. The screen can get pretty chaotic with explosions and effects everywhere. The game doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not about carefully planning every encounter, but more about jumping in, causing chaos, collecting cool stuff, and getting a bit stronger each time. Death doesn't feel punishing because you're still making progress with the resources you have collected. So it's essentially an arcade-style mech brawler with roguelike progression that lets you create increasingly ridiculous combat builds as you play more. And that sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.